Welcome back, guys. It's been a long time since we've done a live in-person video, but we are going to do it by celebrating the end of 2023, talking about our best and worst movies and television shows. So we're going to talk about our top 5 best and worst. We're going to start off with worst because I think that's more interesting. So let's start with OC. Tell us your top 5 worst.
I'll start off with one that might not get mentioned. I don't know if anybody even saw this one, but the Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill comedy "You People" is the first that I'm gonna mention on my list. It was not a very good movie. It was for an Eddie Murphy film. I was expecting a lot more laughs. I was expecting a lot more funny, and it was severely lacking in that area.
Dang, I'm so sorry.
I haven't even heard of that movie.
Me either.
Yeah, it was a Netflix film.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it falls to the curse of just some Netflix stuff is not good. You know?
Yeah, for whatever reason, they just they're very up and down with their films. So
Okay.
disappointing.
Yeah. What about your next one?
Next one, I'm gonna go with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yep.
Quantumania.
I think that's that's on my list as
all
well.
Of our lists.
yeah, that one. It was ripe with a ton of promise. The extracurricular activities aside, the whole excitement over Kang and Jonathan Majors was really hindered severely by this film.
Yeah.
I don't know, the decision making of having him be defeated ultimately by Ant-Man and really not even being that threatening of a villain in the film. It was very disappointing to watch. It's and personally, Jonathan Majors is a fantastic actor, so he was acting very well in the film. But the plot and all of the other elements around the film,
It was just a bad payoff.
was terrible.
it's a
Yeah,
bad
terrible payoff. And even the CGI. This is one of the films from this year that was this is probably going to come up a couple times.
Yeah.
It was
Worse than The Flash?
hey, that's probably next on the list is The Flash. But there were a couple of films this year that terrible CGI was a consistent theme in a lot of the films from this year. So that was definitely the case for Quantumania. Definitely the case for The Flash.
Yeah.
The Flash was a disappointing movie.
Flash was very
definitely,
disappointing.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I had to literally watch the animated movie just for me to remember that it was a
Flashpoint Paradox?
good. Yeah, just to remember it was a good story.
Yeah.
I think even the CW had a better Flashpoint Paradox in the movie, which is saying something because we don't like the CW Flash.
Do you remember watching the Flashpoint storyline? It was like one episode in season.
I think season 3, right?
Yeah. It's just like one episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was good. Honestly.
I think it was better than the movie, but maybe I don't
It
know.
was CW good.
Yeah, CW good for the
But that's the
standards.
same exact thing I did. Watch Flashpoint Paradox afterwards because I was
we
just
all
so upset or sad.
I watched it beforehand.
I was gonna say I did the wrong thing and I watched it before and I was like, let's see if this is gonna live up. And then it actually made the whole viewing experience way
It just
worse.
made it so much worse. But yeah, that's and then Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Oh yes.
That's on
was
everyone's.
another one.
I think
Also,
that's on
think.
everyone's list.
What's going on here? I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. And the last one I'll mention here is probably the Marvels. I wouldn't say the Marvels is as bad as those other films, but it was fairly disappointing. It was a movie that I think could have been done much better than it was, and it just kind of got in its own way. So
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, most of what you said is on my list. I would add to Eternals. That was the Pixar movie. It was, to me, it was just
Elementals.
Elementals, my bad. Eternals. I'm mixing two.
yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, it was just a very disappointing movie overall. I just felt like it was like a cliche love story, and a lot of things didn't really make sense. I didn't feel like the romanticness made sense. I feel like they just had to be together, as well as I felt like it didn't really have a villain. It just had a conflict that was gonna the town's gonna get flooded at some point. So it was a weird setup and all that. So I was disappointed with it. I mean, I'm glad that it did to be fair, I'm glad it did good on what's it called? It did good on Disney Plus because I do think that the talent were new talent. So I do appreciate that new talent was given their opportunity and they did the best what they could. But overall, as a story, it was very disappointing. And then to add on to that list is The Hunger Games. Songbird. Yeah,
Soon.
yeah. I'm just.
Ballad of Snakes and Song.
Yes, yeah, that one. Yeah, I'm just.
Long title.
Yeah, point is, for me, it hurt because Snow is one of my favorite villains, and for them to do an origin story of this villain and not do it well deserved is just sad. And I know the argument was that, well, we don't want to make 2 movies, we want to, condense it into 1 movie, but this movie would have worked better if it was just 2 movies, because the story just felt like they were rushing it, and it just, there are a lot of things they changed, like they made it more romantic, while in the past one it was more self-interest, like Snow was actually playing the girl from my understanding in the book. Point is, I didn't like the change of it, and it was definitely a disappointing movie of this year. So those would be added on to the things that OC has mentioned as my top 5 worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think similarly, I had Ant-Man and Shazam on my list also. I think my top most disappointing one was Wish from Disney. I think obviously we hold Disney to a different standard, right? So
Exactly.
Used to, but lately.
And that's you can say the same about a lot of the animated films that came out this year, besides Spider-Verse. I mean, that is our number one. Like, we failed to mention that earlier, but it goes without saying. But Wish was the number one that I was like actually like shocked that that's something that they released. It was just so boring, and something about it just looked really flat. They tried to attempt to do the cell shading, but it looked like kind of unfinished, uninteresting to look at. The story was super, super boring. So boring, y'all. Like, it was putting me, and I took my parents and my mom, who like loves animated films, and they were both like yawning, trying to stay awake. I felt pretty bad. I was like, I didn't mean to bring you here, and if you're not having a good time. So, that affected my experience too, just seeing the boredness on their faces. And then I have another one on here that I was pretty disappointed by, was Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I even enjoy Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, to be honest. Like, I love the original trilogy and Kingdom. And then so I was pretty open-minded going into Dial of Destiny, and I like Phoebe Bridges, and I don't know, I just was really looking forward to it, honestly. Maybe my expectations were higher than they should have been, and yeah, it didn't hit for me emotionally. They like retconned Shia LaBeouf's character in a weird way. They tried to make it emotional, but it wasn't. It was just
Did
weird.
they kill him?
Just spoilers. Yes.
Oh, man.
They like gave Harrison Ford like one line to say about it. So yeah, just a lot of
He died
disappointments.
under a tree.
Yeah, a lot of disappointments all around there. And then I promised you guys that I would say this one, so we had something like saucy that people could get mad about. But I put The Boy and the Heron, a Ghibli
See, I didn't
film
see that, so I
on
can't
mine.
defend
I haven't seen that.
Me either.
A lot of people say they like it though.
It's not bad, but I feel the need to put it on like my I don't consider this a bottom list. It's just something for me. I'm considering it my disappointment list.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it could be my fault. I maybe went in with like a lens of nostalgia that didn't hold up this time around. I mean, the Miyazaki films, he's got this whole roster of amazing films. So again, like with Wish, I hold these films to a different level. And I just think things like the score, I expect for the score alone to like make me want to cry, like Joe Hisaishi, right? And I just the score just wasn't as memorable as the other Miyazaki films. Some of the fantastical elements that were in Boy and the Heron were like just, I don't know, not as intriguing to me as from what I've seen in the other films. So I guess I might have been comparing it too much to other things. It's still, they're very much in their craft, that whole team. Animation wise, it's beautiful. Like it's a feast for the eyes, but I don't think like it was what I was expecting or like what I wanted to see. But again, could be my fault. A little disappointing to me, and I just had to call it out.
Sounds
Fair
good.
enough.
Yeah.
Honestly, you guys have said everything I would have said.
Okay.
I'm like, I feel like this year I haven't seen as many movies as I have like the previous years
That's fine.
for some odd reason.
Yeah.
But generally, whenever I hear a movie is good, that's when I go see it, right? So I'm sort of like less
inclined.
Yes, inclined.
Yeah, I'm less adventurous compared to you guys. You guys are like, oh, go see it, regardless.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just see the stuff I already have an attachment to, like the DC and Marvel stuff, and then
Yeah.
and then it's disappointing then.
Yeah, exactly.
So I didn't see the Marvels.
Yeah, me either. That's why
either.
after being burned by Ant-Man, I just didn't trust anything.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just like, I have to hear that a movie is good, and then I'll go check it out.
That's fair.
Understandable.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Does anybody have an honorable mentions of worse?
mention.
I do have one. This is more of a disappointment, and it would be Creed 3. I thought that comparing to all the other Creeds, like as a standalone movie, it was
Yeah,
fine.
you know what? That's a good one. Because I had an attachment to Creed 1 and 2, so
Yeah.
I just saw that movie no matter what. And I did feel it was disappointing.
Yeah, it was
compared to-
disappointing. Yeah.
Really?
I just really loved 1 and 2. And then 3, it's, I don't know, it just felt like a completely different movie. You know?
Yeah, there was just a lot of like acting was off at some points, and I get it. It was Michael B. Jordan's first movie, so they're kind of he was juggling a lot. You can see it within it, but acting was off. There was just certain story things I didn't like, story beats, and it just, even though thematically I liked it, and there is animated themes in it, so I can respect that.
Yeah.
Same time,
There are good moments.
the execution just was off with it comparing to the other like if it wasn't for those first two Creeds, maybe I would have more of appreciation for it. But when you see those first two Creeds and you get this, it's like you can definitely tell there's a little bit of a downgrade, and that was a
Yeah.
disappointment for me for Creed 3.
I feel that.
To be like more specific, like you don't like not like the film. Like
Yeah, I
the same
don't.
thing with Me and Boy and the Heron. Because I remember when you first watched Creed, like you liked it, but you were like, yeah, it's definitely not as good as the first two.
Yeah.
So it was like disappointing in that aspect because like you're expecting like the third one to like maybe be the best,
Yeah,
right?
that, or at least have the same kind of quality, and then when the quality is lower,
exactly.
you just feel like you're being
Yeah. True.
So, but I do respect what Michael B. Jordan was doing with the movie, so I will give it that praise for what it is. But yeah,
I think one honorable mention that I'll put is No One Will Save You.
For bad?
Yeah, just because I was pretty disappointed by from how it started to how it ended. I think the start of the film was very, very strong. But I think as you just keep going throughout the film, it's just like it became a little bit more disappointing. And that was one of the things where I think I like watched it as soon as I saw an ad for it. So I was like, whatever the ads were for it were so like well done and like so perfect that it like got me to watch it, like find it and watch it immediately. So going from that, like, and then the first half of the film being so good, and then you just see where it kind of ends. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I don't know what this is about.
Okay. I think I also might have said like, "Oh, hey, check it out. It's on Hulu." Because I remember,
You
so I
might
think I
have.
might have like convinced you. Might be, but but I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think it wasn't like bad. I think it near the end it takes a kind of fantastical twist.
Yeah.
But as a horror fan, there were lots of cool horror elements that I really liked that were like really scary. Like
Right,
the parts
that
where
was the
she's in the tractor beam are like
Uh-huh.
really scary and like she's just not moving at all, totally silent. Like that was really cool to see. The cinematography was cool. I think at the end they tried to make it like a lesson. Like she was like living in this town where everyone hated her and she was like perfectly like in her house, but it was like a veneer. And then like at the end it was like the same thing, except instead of everyone hating her, everyone's like an alien, but like she's still like pretending to be happy. And like I don't know, they tried to make it like bookends, and like that was very divisive ending I could see amongst like the people that watched it. So, yeah.
I was attracted to it for the horror elements that it kind of showcased in its advertising, and then the first like chunk of the film was like super horror heavy, and so all that stuff I thought was great. It's just like the story. It's like, oh man, but yeah, that's honorable mention as far as worst.
okay. So now we can move on to the positive stuff. Let's talk about the best movies that came out this year, guys.
Hey.
Let's start off. Let's put your list up there.
Okay, all right. Actually, how about we start with Scott and then we'll go.
Okay.
this way.
Let's start. I
Okay.
guess Scott, you want to talk about best movies? We'll give you that free one.
Sure. obviously Spider-Verse.
It's like not even technically on our list because it's like on its own
Spider-Verse
list.
too.
Like, it's just
Spider-Verse.
like its own thing.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
What's the best Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse film? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's its own like category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Did
Yeah.
you ever rewatch Into the Spider-Verse after just
Yeah,
to see?
yeah. I still think the first one's better.
Okay.
But the second movie's
Yeah.
is great.
I mean, I agree with you, Scott.
I disagree. I still think the second one's better after rewatching Into the Spider-Verse twice.
That's
it's
fair.
It's just. I don't know. It's what it adds, but I agree. I can see. I think your main point was that at least it finished, and then this one it would still cliffhanger, so we still isn't a complete movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a.
I
fair
also
point.
make the argument that having the second film be out makes the first one better too when you rewatch it.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of setup and payoff in the first one that pays off. In the
Yeah,
second one.
definitely. I mean, another obvious one is Guardians 3.
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy
I'm
3.
glad you actually watched it.
Yeah, I did. I mean, like, I didn't watch it in theaters because at that stage I was like so disappointed in Marvel that I just didn't want to watch anything Marvel
Oh, you
related.
should have watched it in theaters. It was so good.
Yeah, but this one I watched later when it released, and then like on Disney Plus, and it was legit. Like it was really, I think they do a really good job. I mean, it helps that it's like an animal. You know,
Yeah.
Rocket Raccoon. but
Animal.
and it's like
everybody loves animals.
their friends are
Exactly.
also all animals. But overall, the story is just like
Yeah.
it's
It's so
Solid.
good. It's like number one on my list, and like I'm surprising myself like saying that because it's I don't know. I've always said the Guardians films were my favorite of all the Marvel films, and I kind of like forgot along the way, obviously, because there were so many ho-hum Marvel films. And I didn't have faith either, and you know that might have helped my experience having so low expectations, and I shouldn't have because even if they were like, even if I was expecting something, I think I would have been happy with this film because James Gunn just tied everything up with like a neat little bow and like
Yeah.
made it like a real send off, like a
Exactly.
real goodbye.
James Gunn
He
doesn't
didn't
disappoint.
he didn't shy away from like all the stuff that happened in the Avengers films, right? He could have kind of been like,
Exactly.
oh, Gamora's back to normal. Here she is. They like broke up. Like she's not the
Exactly.
same person. He emphasizes that, and it's heartbreaking. But he covers it in like a really great way. And there's so much. I mean, the music, obviously, they're all
Yeah.
good in all the Guardians films. Like everything you love about a Guardians film, he puts that in this last one, and he just gives the whole team a proper send off. And I have to like give that movie its due diligence. Its props.
Another thing I'd like to add was the performances were really good. Like Chris
Yeah.
Pratt and
I mean-
Zoe Saldana had some great performances. I keep on forgetting the Nigerian guy, the villain.
Oh,
His performance
He's
was
such a
amazing.
classic
Oh, wow.
actor. He's like
Good.
classically trained. Just
So I have to highlight that, and then
yeah, Bradley
Chukwudi
Cooper, one of the
Iwuji.
best.
yeah,
Did Bradley Cooper do performance capture too, or was it just just
No,
voice
that's,
acting
Yeah.
alone?
Sean Gunn does the performance.
Oh yeah.
capture.
I mean, what a voice performance! Like it was like
Yeah.
so raw. Like
Yeah.
how he's like a little silly raccoon. It just blows my
Exactly.
mind how good it was.
so yeah, it was on a bunch of levels. It just hit on a bunch of levels of good movie, especially since we were so disappointed
Yeah.
with what was going on at MCU. So to have
Yeah.
that movie was
Yeah.
just like a
It's like you don't know what you've got till it's gone. That's the feeling that hit me because I was like, dang, like I didn't think I would miss them, but I'm gonna miss them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
was that the only like solid MCU movie this year?
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Okay, what else on your list?
John Wick 4.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
That's
definitely.
like just
Easy.
really easy movie to say. It's well shot.
In my opinion, it's the best of the John Wicks, and it's
Yeah.
just like it carries on the legacy of like they're all such beautiful looking films.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect film that you could just like put on in the background of like a party that you're having at home. It's just like
It's-
something beautiful is happening all the time.
I think for this one they had some of the best choreography.
Oh, yeah.
Out of all of them.
Yeah, Scott Adkins in it. Like I love him from all the B action films. Like it was cool to see him.
Scott
get his-
Adkins and
his
Donnie Yen.
flowers.
Oh, yeah,
Donnie
Donnie
Yen.
Yen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love them. The whole
Such
cast was
good-
sick.
Yeah, such a good action, but it's
Yeah.
John Wick.
We love John Wick.
Yeah,
for
John Wick.
reviving American action films and putting it on their back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I'd say the first half of the D&D movie,
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons.
good. That's good. If you liked it, it's good. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
first
yeah.
half,
I personally thought the ending was a little lackluster, but the first half of it was like
the setup, the world building,
I really enjoyed it.
the
a
opening
lot.
scene, and yeah, I don't think anything could top like the opening scene in that film. Like it was just
Yeah.
like really cool.
It was
Like
really
everything
fun.
was practical sets and like really cool makeup and character designs, and
Yeah, maybe I'll say the first 75%. Because I just thought the ending was like, okay.
that first fight scene with Michelle Rodriguez's character was really sick with Holga, or what was her name? Yeah.
The warrior character.
Yeah, like
yeah.
when they were breaking out of no. Yeah, the very first fight scene that she did, that was like really cool. I think that was like some of the coolest like choreo I've seen from her, at least.
Nice. Okay, anyone else want to go now?
Was that 5? I sounded like that was 4.
Call him out.
I'm just trying to figure that out.
You didn't watch five.
That's fine.
movies.
That's fine. That's fine.
Chingu?
That's fine.
He did
That's
not
fine.
watch-
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We can
Crystal.
we can move
Oh
on, Crystal.
my
You can add
gosh,
on.
I'm done.
I'm sure you guys will say whatever I would say as my fifth
Yeah,
one.
Okay,
we have a
okay.
lot of the same ones again on ours. Like Guardians was number 1. And then I have like Killers of the Flower Moon on here for like
Yeah.
a more dramatic
That's a great
fare.
one.
I
Don't
mean,
know what that is.
Scorsese, man.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese, and
Yeah.
the performances in that were very good.
Yeah.
The true like story behind all of it was so interesting.
Pretty heartbreaking and
Yeah, very much. so.
yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to highlight such like a dark moment in history, but it needs to be done. And I think
It'll
Martin's-
definitely put you in your Dr. Umar bag if you
Dr. Umar. Oh my
if
god.
you understand what I'm
Oh,
talking.
I know what he's talking about. Dr. Umar.
Anyway,
but yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, performance, obviously Leonardo DiCaprio was really great, and then his counterpart, who played his wife, she was really good. One person that surprised me, and it shouldn't because it's Robert De Niro, but Robert De Niro, he's getting up there in his age. He's like old. I'm like, whatever. Like I don't care if like some of these older actors like phone in their performances sometimes, but like his energy was actually like really good. Like he was really
really
intimidating and evil, and like he was actually like the funniest character also in that film. He had some of the funniest one-liners, and the delivery always hit, and I'm just like, how could like these two old dudes be working together and like making like the funniest stuff I'm like seeing in films today right now.
and Lily Gladstone in that film was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Lily Gladstone popped off. I really want to see her in more stuff because
Yeah.
she's really talented.
Yeah, her and Jesse Plemons also. He's always great.
Everything he touches is gold. I think that people love Jesse Plemons, and it's
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah.
And then what else is on my list? I have Godzilla -1. I mean, I love a kaiju film, and
Still haven't seen that
and
yet.
yeah, I love a kaiju film, and it's definitely one of the better ones. At least the best one that's come out in like the recent years, right? I think it's better than Shin Godzilla. And I'm really excited to see it in black and white once it
Yes,
comes out on
yes.
January 12th.
We're watching it black and white.
It was sick. I think, every Godzilla film kind of like ties into like Japan's history and whatnot, and I think they did like a really good job kind of like tying it with World War II and all that, and they like did it in a respectful way and like a cool way that like highlights just like how
Nice.
senseless like violence and stuff can be.
Yeah.
So
I'll check
it really,
that one out.
It really
Yes,
hit.
Yeah,
but
you
what
should
makes it
definitely-
so compelling is that you actually care for the characters. Like you actually
Yeah.
feel the sorrow of these characters,
Nice.
the pain that they
Yeah.
lost, like how it sucks to be having this giant Godzilla destroy everything that you worked
Yeah, it
for.
sucks.
Like you really feel the pain, and then it earns its way. Like even the way they defeat
Alright,
Godzilla.
don't get
I don't want
into
to spoil it,
spoilers.
but the way they defeat Godzilla is like an anime. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah, it's just fun, and it's the Godzilla design. His design is one of the best ones I've seen. I really like the American design of like the more like the modern Godzilla films, but in -1 he looks great. He's really scary. But yeah, it is kind of funny. I watched it on like an early release, so there was like Godzilla and kaiju fans in there, obviously. So we were like cheering when he's like killing people, like yeah. in the beginning, and then like in the middle, obviously he storms Tokyo, and then everyone's like really silent because it's really sad to see it. It's just like it's funny, like the difference that like how it was in the beginning to the middle of the film.
Yeah,
So
I was upset when
I-
Godzilla was killing people. I was like, no, Godzilla, bad Godzilla,
I
don't
was
kill
like,
my
I love
friends.
you, but stop. But yeah, and so I was just like surprised by how excited that made me, and it revived my interest in kaiju films because I've been going back and like watching stuff. But yeah, so I like that one. I have again, I'm a horror fan, so I have Talk to Me on here. I think A24 horror films. They've
great
yeah,
one.
A24,
Oh, man.
they are in their horror film bag.
Yes.
They always make good ones. I mean, it's by like 2 small filmmakers too, so it was great to see young talent put together such a good horror film. Like, it is a horror film for horror fans. There's fun like tropes in there. There's good emotional beats, and it's scary. It's brutal. It's hard to watch sometimes. Like, I literally had
It
to
is.
close my eyes.
I
Multiple
watched it.
parts.
I watched it because you recommended it.
Yeah,
and
you watched it with Felicia and she had to walk out, right?
No. I watched it by myself when it was already
I
out.
watched it with Felicia and she has to walk out.
Damn.
But it was like a really good movie despite not being a horror fan, because I'm
Yeah.
not a horror fan, and I just enjoyed it overall. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the few horror movies that I actually feel like I liked.
Yeah, it was dark. It had its like fun moments in the beginning. Obviously, that's a trope in horror films. Is like, you know, people are youthful. They're not like thinking about like things. And
Yeah,
like,
we're
there's
carefree.
grief is like a big thing that, you know, they cover in like horror films, and we've seen it done before, right? We've seen it in The Babadook. We've seen it in other films, and you know, sometimes it's done really well, and sometimes it's not so well. But I feel like Talk to Me did a really good job of like having a deeper story and covering it in a way that's not too on the nose, like, oh, this person's depressed. Like, no, it's really good, and I respect the filmmaking there.
Yeah.
The last one I have on my list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I really loved TMNT. Like, I watched it 3 times in theaters. It's just good old-fashioned fun. If you're like a fan of any of the TMNT shows, they really have like the spirit of like the different turtles in there. They all have
Yeah.
like really fun personalities,
Yeah.
really
It's-
great
it's
dialogue.
definitely next gen. So
It's
is,
it's
yeah.
very Gen Z. It's
it
very
is.
it's like topical humor even, but like they do a good job of it. And yeah, I think the performances were really good too. All the young talent really popped off. Jackie Chan popped off. The fight choreo, weirdly enough, was great to
Yeah, it was
watch.
good.
There's
Yeah.
a really
Yeah, it was
long
fun.
sequence in the middle
Yeah.
when they're like fighting all the mob bosses.
Yeah,
I
I loved it.
love that scene. Ice Cube.
He did a great
He
job.
did a good job. He did a great job. Yeah.
Actually, the whole cast was sick. There was like John Cena, Paul Rudd, everyone popped
Seth
off.
Rogen.
Great fun film. I'll watch it a 4th time in theaters. I don't care. I love that film.
Yeah,
that's another one I watched because of you.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
enjoyable.
Yeah, it was
Yay.
definitely a good movie. I watched it
Okay.
twice. Again, I love the music too. They did a really good job of the music. I feel like they were inspired by Spideyverse with the music as well. So
Yeah, and it's like I said, Spider-Verse affected. I've said this before. Spider-Verse affected animation, like overall. Like its
absolutely.
influence echoes, and you can see it.
Yeah.
And there are a couple films where it's been so good, like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Oh, yeah.
And TMNT. And then circling back to my like bottom, Wish is an example where they did not do it right, and I'm mad at them for it. But yeah, we'll keep on the positive stuff right
yeah,
now.
for sure.
Sorry.
For sure.
Yeah.
So my list again, it had John Wick 4, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Across the Spider-Verse. 2 movies that were actually based off historical figures that I actually enjoyed. One was Napoleon. That one had.
I didn't see
Oh, you
Joaquin-
watched Napoleon?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
okay.
a very interesting movie. I mean, just
I
to
gotta
see.
check it out. I love Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah, Joaquin Phoenix, great performance all around. Like he just really knew how to nail this character. But what was so interesting was the way they explained how Napoleon, even though he's this great conqueror, he still has problems basically with his wife. Like him and his wife didn't really get along. Like his wife basically cheated on him multiple times. So it was just like Jesus, and you really
Spoilers,
see.
man.
I mean, it's part of the story. It's part of
history.
the. It's history.
You can read about
We don't know
it
the
on
history yet, though.
Wikipedia.
Spoilers for the history.
But point is, it's a very interesting duality of that, especially
just kidding,
since
man.
that he was this great conqueror and like had all this like status and wealth and everything. So it's very interesting that they played off of it, and Joaquin Phoenix did a really amazing job. So
Walking the line between the myth and the actual man himself, kind of like showing like both the grandeur and
Yeah,
his personal
exactly.
problems.
exactly, and you see how
I'm
that
intrigued.
how it it really blends in and how it affects him and gets his needs as well as how he compensates and copes. Basically, it's almost like a coping mechanism that he became.
I mean, there's a reason we have that saying, Napoleon complex, right? I mean, I guess this delves into that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it's a real thing.
And then the next one being Oppenheimer, which for me, I feel like this movie felt like a Black Mirror because it was like a very like it was about technology and then the consequences, and it was like very depressing at the
Yeah.
end. You're just like,
I mean, this happened though.
I know that's what I meant, but that's the point. Like it felt like Black Mirror in that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's just like, even though this movie is 3 hours, it doesn't feel so short. It feels
I have yet to see it because it's 3 hours.
trust me, it's worth it. And
The
it's just-
pacing makes it
It's like a breakneck
feel
speed.
good.
Like
Yeah.
it's 3 hours of like rapid pace.
Exactly.
But
Which I
it's-
mean might be tiring in another way.
Yeah,
But
It's still technically like it's still a masterpiece.
it is.
Yeah, it's still very, very
even
good.
even with the dialogue, and there's so many people there you don't expect. Like,
Good
wait,
to
this
hear.
person's here, that person.
Yeah, good to hear. I feel like when I didn't watch it with you guys because I was like in Singapore at the time, and then somebody who I met in Singapore told me they really didn't like that movie.
Oh.
So I was just like,
Interesting.
okay, I guess I'm not gonna
Yeah.
check it out for a bit.
You know what I'm noticing after working in my job, that there's certain people who watch movies for different things. So I feel like Oppenheimer was one of those movies that, like, if you're looking for, I hate to be that kind of pompous, but like mindless entertainment, it's not very mindlessly
Yeah,
entertainment
yeah.
kind of movie. It's
Like
more
on
of
the
a-
other side of that is Barbie. in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, Barbie, interestingly enough, isn't mindless to an extent. Like, it's mindless, but there's a little bit of a message.
No,
going
there's
on.
there's definitely a message.
There's
there. And
definitely a message, yeah.
There's actually a lot. There's actually a lot you could dive into with Barbie. I know we never talked about it, but yeah, that's.
I mean, I'll give it an honorable mention for one of the worst.
Okay. We haven't, dudes. We haven't. Oh, you're putting it in on the worst.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's fine. You know what?
I mean,
We had-
it wasn't a bad movie.
I watched it and I was just like, why is everyone like talking about how great this movie is? It's like so average. It's like this is disappointing. I'm like, what the heck?
It's. Let's put it this way: you would not expect a Barbie. If someone told you a Barbie movie was like that, you wouldn't expect it. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
That's the way I looked at it. Based
Sure.
off
I
a
mean,
standard
like,
off of the doll,
so
I think
you're-
they did a pretty.
You're judging it based on expectations, not like judging it based on the
Oh,
fact that it's.
don't
a
worry.
movie.
Trust me, I have some faults with the movie. I'm not saying the
Okay,
movie's
okay.
perfect by all means. I have some criticisms, but I will give it its best that there were a lot of things about that movie that were entertaining. A lot of, like, I think Ryan Gosling does a good job playing Ken, and I feel like he pushed the story a lot, which was kind of a problem when you think about that. Ken's pushing the narrative more than Barbie, but maybe that's a construct of masculinity. Who knows? Point is,
Hey, we're talking about it. That's,
Yeah, exactly.
that's something.
point is,
There's
it's
definitely more of a message. in
there's
the
more of a
movie.
message. There's more of a message, and it's interesting.
Yeah, you just need to get in touch with your feminine side, Scott.
I
Oh, see Chuka already. I mean, Chuka's wearing a pink shirt. Look at it. I love it. I love it.
I'm not. I'm just doing it for the Kens, man. I'm Ken enough.
Yeah, I need to get enough.
I just think it kind of like dumbs down and
Yeah,
generalizes
I agree.
a lot
It does. There's a lot of generalization.
of like
does,
the
it
gender
does.
disputes.
Yeah, it does.
And I think it's not good if people actually legit believe those things.
Yeah.
And when they say it, it seems very unironic.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
And I just can't get behind that. I'm just like, wow, this is like dumb.
Yeah.
Like this is like surface level, super surface level.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can't take it seriously.
Yeah,
For sure.
For me, my biggest problem is that the humor kind of undermines the message, and vice versa. The message undermines the humor at times. So I think that's the issue. I wish it was very complimentary. If it was complimentary, it'd probably be one of the best movies out. Because I do like things that are satirical and does do that, but because it kind of undermines the message, it kind of like, I know you're saying this, but you just showed me that, So it almost feels contradictory.
It is discordant. Like everything all together kind of paints this disjointed picture. I wouldn't say it's the worst, but I don't know.
You could be
understand.
disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just disappointed.
No, I feel you. I feel you.
Did you
No,
have high
I was.
expectations for Barbie?
I didn't have high expectations, but I had like people were telling me it's good. I loved it. It's great. No, seriously.
God, just curiosity. Were those people women?
yes.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. That's all you need to know.
Actually, maybe we should stop talking.
there are-
Maybe I don't want to hear this anymore. I was like, I'm with you, Scott. I'm like, well, maybe not.
No, I mean,
Okay.
I honestly think
in
it was
that-
just an difference in expectation. That's it.
On that note, my top 5.
Yeah, we
Anyway,
can move on.
My number
Cool.
one
Anyway.
was in fact Barbie.
Oh, really?
He's like,
That would have been so funny. That would have been so
it
funny.
was not.
Oh my god, it's funny.
No, I had
I
a lot of
can-
the same, I had a lot of the same top points that you guys had. Of course, Across the Spider-Verse, John Wick 4, Oppenheimer was great. Some of the ones that you guys didn't mention though, Past Lives. I think I'm the only one who watched Past Lives.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why I'm thinking of Avatar when you say past lives.
I think Past Lives is one of those things where it was one of those stories that it's not for me, but the movie itself was just so well done that it's like you can't argue with just how
Undisputable.
it's undisputable how good it was as a film.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry because, like I said, the story itself is not necessarily tailored to me. And in my like view, I'm like, you guys created your own problems and are now crying about it. That was my take on like what was happening in the story. But regardless, everything that it was about, like everything in just like the creation of that film, the way that the director was able to capture the expressions of these actors, and the actors were so good too. Just like the way that she was able to create a story and a narrative with nothing being said was just so well done. It was so well done.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, definitely watch it if you haven't. Past Lives is really, really good. And yeah, we mentioned Killers of the Flower Moon. So good, so good.
That was on my list.
One of the movies that nobody mentioned was They Clone Tyrone, which
really?
yeah,
Good movie.
it was really good. It was a really I think I'm also the only one who saw that one. Yeah, it was a really good movie. I want to say it felt kind of like a Boondocks episode.
That's what I'm thinking. It sounds like it.
It felt kind of like a Boondocks episode.
Okay, I might have to look this up.
Yeah, it was so well done. And John Boyega,
Boyega.
yeah,
Good
John
boy.
Boyega did a great job in the role. Jamie Foxx did a great job. Tiana Harris, what's her name? The lady who was in Tiana Paris. That was, I mean, she was also in the Marvels, but between the Marvels and They Clone Tyrone
Okay.
is is the better film. But yeah, it was so well done, and I definitely appreciated that. So yeah, I guess those are my two outside picks are Past
Yeah.
Lives and They Clone Tyrone.
Solid.
All right.
I'm intrigued. That's like number one on my list now.
Yeah.
Sounds you said it's like a Boondocks episode.
That's good.
That's
That's
kind
good.
of
That's
sick.
good.
We're on honorable mentions now, right?
Yeah, honorable
Do you have one?
mentions. Yeah, for does anybody have any honorable mentions?
I'll mention Air, the Nike Michael Jordan like
Air was
biopic.
good.
It was
I
really
watched
good.
that one.
Yeah, Ben Affleck directed and starred in it alongside his best friend, whose name is escaping me right now.
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon. Yes.
Isn't he the main? Oh no, isn't he the main character?
Yeah, Matt Damon is the main character in the film. But yeah, no, they did a great job. It was really good. And as far as biopics go, Viola Davis killed
Yeah.
it. She was so good. And yeah, it was just a fun time film.
That was it.
Yeah, and then of course I'll probably mention Mission Impossible as a
Yeah,
honorable mention.
that was one on my list. That was an
Yeah.
honorable mention. It's weird. I don't think because it didn't like necessarily flop. It just didn't meet projections, right? And I think maybe just because it's part one of two, and
Yeah.
it's like I heard that's part of the reason why for Spider-Verse they didn't want to say it was only part one, is because when people hear that, maybe like less people go into the theaters
they've kind of-
because they're like, oh, it's not even complete. I'll just watch it before the next one comes out, right? I think that's what happened with Mission Impossible. So I guess they were onto something because it was amazing. It was a fantastic film, and I feel like not a lot of people watched it. There was a lot more excitement, I feel, when Fallout came out. I think Fallout's better, but it was still really good, this last Mission Impossible film. And yeah, shouts out to the whole cast. Tom Cruise is great. I have an honorable mention for Priscilla, which is the biopic for Priscilla Presley. I think it's really good. Sofia Coppola does a really good job of getting these kind of muted, underscored performances from people. The girl, I don't know the actress's name, who played Priscilla, was really great. Jacob Elordi's Elvis, I think, was better than Austin Butler's. I watched both Elvis movies Did Elvis come out this year?
No, I think it came out last year.
Okay, that would have been my bottom if it was. But yeah, Jacob
I didn't watch
Elordi
it either, but-
killed it. He had a very understated performance as Elvis, and I thought it was pretty thought provoking because it kind of, how do I put this? Obviously, it's like very crazy that like Elvis Presley met her as a teen and then like married her and all that. But also as like times change, like it went from I think the 60s to the 70s. So kind of seeing Priscilla be like very buttoned up and like oppressed and like, you know, kind of not really like being able to leave Graceland. And then eventually you see like her growth as a character kind of is like a mirror of, I guess, what a lot of women felt between the 60s and the 70s and like the movement for like free love and independence and all that. And so it was cool to see her change. And then like Elvis and all his guys like really didn't. And I thought that was like kind of an interesting thing to see on screen. And I thought it was done very well. So yeah, shouts out to Priscilla. I think those were all my honorable mentions.
I'll just put one. I'll put the Mario movie. I thought that was a very entertaining movie for it to be.
It was a fun movie.
for what it was.
Peaches was cool.
Yeah, Peaches was a good thing. So yeah, so that I think that would be my only honorable mention is the Mario movie.